There's a global gold rush happening right now, but it's not for gold. It's for sunshine. Seriously, the entire world is in a race to build solar power, and the scale is just mind-boggling. So today, we're going to look at one of the companies that's actually on the ground, building our solar future one giant farm at a time. Let's get into it.
And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about, let's look at India. In 2023, the country put up about 13 gigawatts of solar. Okay, impressive. But by 2025, that's expected to nearly triple to almost 38 gigawatts. And by 2030, get this, a staggering 58 gigawatts in a single year. This isn't just growth, folks. This is an absolute energy revolution in the making.
So we see these crazy headlines all the time, right? All these gigawatts and renewable energy targets. But it brings up a really important question. Who are the people on the ground? Who's physically designing and engineering and, building these enormous power plants that are meant to catch the sun? Well, allow me to introduce you to one of the most important names in the game, even if you haven't heard of them. Sterling and Wilson Renewable Energy, or SWSOLR. These guys are one of the key engineering and construction giants that are turning this global solar boom from a dream into a physical reality. And their journey has been, well, incredibly fast. They only jumped into the solar business back in 2011. By 2017, they're building one of the world's biggest projects out in Abu Dhabi. They go public in 2019, get a huge investment from Reliance in 2022, and by 2025, they were ranked the #1 company of their kind in the entire world. I mean, that is a meteoric rise in just over a decade.
So how they do it so fast? Well, it really boils down to a few key advantages. First, they're what's called a pure-play solar company. That just means they do one thing, solar, and they do it really, really well. They use their cost-effective home base in India to run projects all over the globe. They have a powerhouse engineering team in-house, and they have a proven track record on huge, complicated projects. All of that makes them bankable, basically a super trustworthy partner for these massive investments.
Okay, so we've established they're a leader, a big deal. But what does a company like SWS Solar actually do? Let's break down their business and see how they take a solar farm from just an idea in someone's head to a real, working power plant. So the heart and soul of their business is something called solar EPC. EPC stands for Engineering, Procurement, and Construction. The easiest way to think about it is like this. It's a turnkey, all-in-one service. A client comes to them and says, I want to build a giant solar farm here, and SWS Solar handles literally everything to get it designed, built, and turned on.
And this whole concept to commission process is what it's all about. It starts with the blueprint, right? The design and engineering, figuring out the best layout. Then comes procurement. That's just a fancy word for shopping for all the parts. The panels, the wires, the whole shebang. Step 3 is the fun part, the actual construction on site. And finally, commissioning, where they flip the switch, test everything, and officially connect it to the power grid.
But their job doesn't stop when the lights come on. Nope. The second pillar of their business is something called O&M. Operations and maintenance. This is the long-term gig of keeping these huge multi-million-dollar assets humming along at peak performance, maximizing the power they produce for years and years to come. And this is where it gets really cool, showing just how innovative they are. They're not just building on land. To deal with the problem of land being scarce and expensive, SWS Solar actually built India's very first floating solar project. Yeah, they put panels on top of reservoirs and lakes. It's a super clever solution that shows you exactly where this industry is headed. Okay, this kind of crazy growth and innovation has to be powered by some serious financial muscle. So let's follow the money and see how all this strategy is actually paying off. The revenue growth here is, to be honest, just explosive. In fiscal year 2023, they brought in a little over 2,000 crore rupees. 2 years later, in 2025, that number had more than tripled to over 6,300 crore. That's not just slow and steady. That is what it looks like when you are at the absolute center of a booming industry. And the pipeline for future work? It tells the exact same story. Their new order inflows, which basically means new contracts they've signed, have just been climbing steadily year after year. This shows that their growth isn't a fluke, it's actually speeding up. So where is all this business coming from? Well, as of mid-2025, their order book shows they are heavily focused on their home market. A whopping 88% of their upcoming work is in India. This lets them cash in on that domestic boom we saw earlier, while still keeping a solid international footprint.
So you add up all the projects they've ever touched, all the ones they're building right now, and you land on this one massive number, 22.8 gigawatt peaks. It's a huge figure, but what does it actually mean in the real world? Well, it means enough clean electricity to power millions upon millions of homes. It's an amount of energy that prevents a massive amount of carbon from ever entering the atmosphere. We're talking about the equivalent of taking countless cars off the road every single year. That's the real-world impact of a number like that.
All right, let's zoom out for a second. We've seen who SWS Solar is, we've seen how they work, we've seen the numbers. But what does their story really tell us about the future of energy for all of us? What this really shows is their unique strategic position. It's like their secret weapon. They have this huge global presence, working in almost 30 countries, so they can go anywhere. But their core strength, their foundation, is their low-cost, high-skill engineering base back in India. That one-two punch is what lets them be competitive anywhere on Earth. And if you ask them, their mission goes way beyond just building things and making a profit. This quote from the company really highlights their focus on sustainability as their guiding principle. They're framing their work not just as a business, but as something that's contributing to the well-being of the planet. And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought. When you see a single company scaling this quickly, literally building the physical infrastructure for clean energy at an exponential rate, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is that transition to a fully renewable future happening even faster than we think? Is it actually closer than any of us imagine?